if my internet's no good, who knows if it'll even come through? But we'll see.
Right. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, everybody.
Hello.
Mark, how's it going?
Not bad yourself?
Not bad. But Mark, I'm not. I'm poking fun, of course. But you slacked on the assignment, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I did. I admit it.
But you had good reason, right? So what happened? What's going on with you?
Car troubles.
Car troubles.
Yeah.
Car troubles.
Basically, just as yesterday, I was planning on doing it yesterday, and like the assignment, and then I went to do the change the winter tires on wife's car, and also needed front brakes. So I was going to do that at the same time, and I did the one side, no issues. Get to the other side, get it all torn apart and ready to go, and turned out the caliper was seized on it, and I couldn't open it up enough to get the new pads and everything in. So I had to throw the one side back together with the old crap. So now I got to pick up a caliper for that side and get the car fixed again.
Yeah. So
so
you're just having
so
fun with the
yeah,
cars,
yeah,
is what's
yeah,
happening.
exactly. Yep, pretty
Hmm.
much.
Nice. Not really nice, but
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's say hello to everybody. We've got Flavio and Harry and Sandy here. Tim is also here, and Christian. Hello. Hello, Brenda
Oh, I
and
have a
Dean
question.
and Wayne. Yeah, what's the question?
It says on the screen, "This is a test." Is that supposed to say this is a test?
Oh, no, let me turn that off. Sorry about that. I'm glad you saw that because I totally forgot I had that on there for when I was testing. Look, boom, not no longer a test.
Yeah, there you
Boop,
go.
we're regular now.
Yeah,
Oh, Harley's here. Hello, Harry. Dean said, big hammer for those calipers. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I always
Ah,
use a C clamp, and I had a wrench on it trying to get it turned in, and it just wouldn't go.
ooh,
It
that
it, it, it would go in part way, but it wouldn't go all the way. Not enough, that's for sure.
mm-hmm. I've never worked on brakes. I've never wanted to work on brakes. I've always felt like no. I mean, I'm not much of a car worker guy anyway. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
um, yeah, that's way beyond me. All right. So, hello,
So
Lewis is here.
I like to say brakes are simple, and normally they are, but not that time.
Right, right, of course. Hello, Lewis and Mark. Rick is here. Rick says it's sunny and hot in Brooklyn. Okay, so I
No,
got a question.
it's overcast and about 7 degrees here.
Yeah, it's a little overcast here as well, but I have a question for you guys. No spoilers, no spoilers. Who watched Game of Thrones last night? Mark, did you watch Game of Thrones?
I've never watched a single episode of
You've
Game of
not. Yeah,
Thrones.
that's what I thought. I couldn't remember, but I was pretty sure you've never watched it. So
Yeah,
in the
but I
chat,
but we did see the Avengers movie finally. Saw that
ah,
on Friday night.
what'd you think?
Uh,
Really?
I'm not sure whether it's because it was just hyped up so much that it kind of made me go yeah, or whether or not it actually was kind of yeah.
Right, right. Okay, I really enjoyed the latest Avengers. So Christian watched it, Lewis watched it, Dean's never seen it, Sandy's never seen it either. Tim watched it and said he was left wanting, though it wasn't as bad as Lost. There's been a lot of Lost comparisons there. Harry says don't watch it. I know. Yeah, Christian and I chatted about it. I know his thoughts. Brenda's never watched Game of Thrones either. All right, so we've got the read, but we're not here for Game of Thrones, are we? Right? We're here because we want to see some simplicity photos, right? Right, guys?
That's the plan, isn't it?
Yeah. Whoops. What the heck is this crap? Turning this off. Um,
Oh, I should apologize ahead of time. My internet seems to be flaky today, so hopefully I'll be here for the whole show. But if I disappear, that's probably why.
all right, hold on. I'm trying to get a thing going here. Here we go. Simplicity. Boom. Okay. Hey, Edith is here as well. Okay, so where do you enter the data for the pics? Harry says. The theme, the I just shared the link in the chat, and if you go to that link, then when in here, let me show you. In fact, we're at the link here. Let me just go over and switch screens. This is what you'll see when you go to that, and down in the lower left-hand corner is a little chat here box. And after you've uploaded your photo, type your info in this box right here. which hopefully you can see me doing on the screen, and then hit enter. And you don't have to sign up for an account for this Vola file. It'll assign you a random username, which will be attached to the photo you upload and attached to the information you put into the chat. So we'll be able to connect everything. If you want to put your name in the information so we know it's your photo, you can add that when you type out your information. But that's where you share, that's where you type. So how did everybody feel? Go ahead, Mark.
And I was going to say, just for anybody who's kind of new to the group,
Yeah.
These photos should be something that was taken within the past 2 weeks and follow the theme of simplicity.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And on that note, how did you guys feel about this theme? Tell me how you felt about this.
For myself, admittedly, I wasn't even really 100% sure how to really define simplicity. Like, is simplicity actually as simple as it sounds? And I kind of thought about it, and it was just kind of like, I'm not 100% sure, because is it literally supposed to be something that's simple to do or not? So, like, the idea that I had, that I wanted to do, which I ended up not doing, obviously, was I was planning on doing like a product shot, and it was going to be like a fairly simple product shot with a little bit of lighting, like not just basic lighting, but a little bit different lighting. So at least it wasn't completely simple, but the concept was simple. So that was kind of what I had in mind.
Okay. Brenda said she was frustrated and unsure, and Edith said unsure as well. I was frankly pretty interested in the amount of questioning that there was around this theme. I think of these themes as very open to your own interpretation. Whether it is literal in the sense that you try to create as simple a composition as possible, or some other interpretation. And I always find it very enjoyable to see how you guys interpret it. So I found that pretty interesting. Simple image or simple to do was what I was thinking. Like, either way, you could go either way with it. For me,
it'd be interesting.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it'd be interesting too, is when we show the person's photo, if they do a quick little blurb in the comments as to what it was that they saw as to how it fit the theme, like where they saw the simplistic part of it, just to see how everybody sort of reads the whole theme, because like you said, everyone's going to interpret it a little bit different. So I think it'd be interesting to see where people are coming from.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. If you guys, when you see your photo come up, want to do that, please do, because that'll help add context to it. I want to say hello to Sonia Garcia from Miami. Hello, and thank you for joining. And we'll start with Miami. Yeah, we'll start with my photo. So, Tim just put a comment in, so let's take a look at that real quick. Tim said, "Simple in its own right was what was in my mind. In my mind, barns take you back to a simpler time. That's where I thought I was going with my photo, and then it changed." And see, that's a perfect interpretation of it. To be able to look at, simplicity and think about a simpler time of connecting with that, like, that's a perfect way to interpret it. One of many that you could do. Frank just joined, and Leo Manchetti is here as well. Welcome, you guys. So let me tell you a little bit about my photo. And while I'm doing that, I want to hear feedback from you guys on my photo, because I think it's only fair that we give feedback to you guys. You guys give feedback to us as well. Me just tonight, because Mark wasn't able to get the shot done.
Because I was slacking off.
Because Mark was slacking off, right? So go ahead and tell me your thoughts on the photo. While you're telling me your thoughts, I'll tell you how I approached it, and why we did what we did with this shot. So this is my interpretation of simplicity, and I went for a simple composition. I think what you captured here is fairly complex. So what's going on is we have a bunch of string attached to fish hooks that are attached to the model's back using liquid latex and a little bit of tissue. And then she's posing in this particular way. And the idea that we were trying to capture in this image is despair. Now, despair is both an emotion and a feeling and a character. And the character is the reason the rats are there, Christian, because in most cases, I'd agree with Christian's comment that he said, I feel this photo would have been more powerful without the rats. But let me show you the inspiration for this particular image. This is the character art for the character that we were trying to interpret and capture. And the rats are a very important part of this character's story and sort of whatever trapping, so to speak, accoutrement. And for that reason, we use the rats, even though without that, without this interpretation, without this cosplay aspect of it, we probably would go without the rats. So that's why the rats are there. Now, we shot this on a clean white because clean white gives me a nice, simple background to work with and allows us to just focus very much on the composition. My settings were f7.1 ISO 200, 1/250th my standard, and I used 3 lights, and I want to show you guys the lighting setup. So this is the behind the scenes. This is later in the shoot, but the lighting setup didn't change. So you can see we just taped the string to the ceiling and then ran it down to the fish hooks on her back, and then had a heater for her because she was cold, which is totally understandable, especially after you put cold paint on yourself. 3 lights, all 3 are 80-200s, left and right in the umbrella soft boxes, cross lighting on the backdrop to give me a nice clean white. Those were set at like 1/8 and 2/3 of a stop. And then the main light above her in the newer softbox with the grid up slightly forward and angled slightly back to light her principally from above, but a little bit from the front to let some of that light cascade down her. And that light was set to, if I recall correctly, 1/4 plus 2/3 of a stop. And that gave us this shot right here. This is early in the shoot. Then later on, we added the paint to go further on our own interpretation of the character. We wanted to start with an homage to this particular piece of art and then build upon that. So that's my photo right there. Mark says, I can't stay up. I have to be up early, so I look forward to playing catch-up tomorrow. But he did submit a photo. That's awesome. Rick says it puts the lotion on its back. Yes. Brenda says despair fits. Flavio says, I thought the eye of the deer was the best way to convey the simplicity of nature's way of expressing itself. That's a good way to interpret it. Dean says, a technically simple image but complex meaning is what I'm getting from your image. Or deep meaning? Yes, and that's what I wanted to do. Tell a deeper or richer or more complex story, so to speak, but do so with a simple composition and a relatively simple looking image. So that's exactly what I was going for. Brenda says despair fits. Edith thinks it's beautiful. Thank you very much, Edith. Oh, George says, I had one from last summer that I shared. Didn't realize this was from the past 2 weeks. Yeah, this one's our normal challenge. Leo likes it, says, nice shot. And we already know that Christian thought that it would be better with the rats out of the shot. So that's my shot. And I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, or not, depending upon how you felt. But let's go down and start going through the rest of your photos.
Don't you want my take
Oh
on
yes,
it?
yes. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm trying to get into everybody else's. Yeah, let me bring it back up. Yeah, Mark, please do share your thoughts on it.
Yeah. First of all, the behind the scenes photo, your horizon was crooked. I couldn't resist that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But the main photo, I really like this. It's I like this the simplistic setup of it, and the fact that you actually did like some nice muted colors, and it's very fitting for this. Or normally you've got all the crazy color gels and everything, and the fact that you kind of got muted tones on this side, I really like that. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I almost did a straight black and white.
Ah, you were that close. Were you?
I was that close, but I decided
I think the muted works.
I think the muted works, yeah. And I took a couple of attempts at the edit before I landed on this particular approach. My first attempt was to do what I've done in some other photos, particularly photos that I shot with my friend Noelle that were of Harley Quinn. And in those photos, what I did is I selected her skin and then used a black and white adjustment layer and manipulated the color balances to make her skin look white, and then drop the opacity on that to just whiten her skin but leave the rest of the color in it.
Yeah. No, and I think it turned out good.
Yeah, I started to take that approach with this photo, but it didn't work. I didn't like the way it looked, just focusing on the skin. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll go with the straight black and white, and I threw the black and white on it, and my immediate reaction was just, it doesn't work for me. And so then I just took that black and white layer and I left it because I had already manipulated the color balance to work the contrast and whatnot. And then I just started playing with the opacity. And the opacity of that black and white adjustment layer is at around like 43%, I think. So like you say,
yeah,
it's,
I was gonna guess 40%, so
yeah,
not bad.
pretty close. So yeah, it's definitely muting the colors without taking them out entirely. And I think that works better because it feels like almost like, you know how it feels like when the color drains out, sort of like the life is draining out. I think that helps kind of augment that despair that we're trying to capture with this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I agree.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, and
Hey,
Sonia
RJ.
Sonia says the image to me, it means someone is scared and tied up in anxiety. That is very much something that is part of the despair character, and so I think what you're getting out of that is very appropriate, Sonia, and that's part of kind of what we're trying to convey here. Hey, RJ, how's it going, bud? Cochise says, awesome, love it, man, thank you. And Hansel Mills, hello Hansel Mills, says the picture actually gets me thinking in a different way about creativity. That's awesome. I'm glad that something that I did could prompt you to think about, to kind of reframe how you see things. Those are real tattoos, Edith. All of those tattoos are her real tattoos. The Bride of Frankenstein. She's got a tattoo on her back, another one on her arm. She's got some on her other arm and leg as well. And she actually asked.
The rats are real too, right? Well,
No. Yeah, the rats are fake, and the rats were not photoshopped in. I do have a friend that actually has pet rats, and I briefly considered asking her to join us so we could have real rats, but then they're not black rats, and it's key that they be black. And we wanted to do the paint, and obviously we don't want to get paint all over her pet rats, so we just decided to go with the fake ones, which obviously in a better world, maybe, you know, in a perfect world, we'd have real black rats in there, but I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. She's really, really happy with how it turned out as well.
Yeah. The real rats, you have to hope that the rats actually cooperate.
Exactly.
Yep. It could be like photographing children just running around all over the place.
Right, exactly. Tim's nursing a crack toe. Oh, I'm sorry, RJ's nursing a crack toe with whiskey, creating some social media content on Adobe Spark. Nice. Oh, God, cool. That's awesome. Edith says, I do hope one day to be able to get to photograph a model. I hope to get as creative as you one day as well. I see that creativity in you already, Edith, and in your work, so I have no doubt that you'll get there. And as far as like shooting a model goes, you know, I would encourage you to start earlier rather than later. And if you can, just reach out to your friends and family as a starting point, just to get started. You don't have to, don't put pressure on you to try to do something like this, as an example, right away. Just to start shooting people will help you build up to it. And the sooner you start with that,
absolutely.
Yeah, the sooner you can kind of build up into that creativity aspect of it and really start exploring your own expression in those photos.
Yeah, and even with something like that, like your work is definitely more creative than my work, but they're completely different kinds of work, but they're still working with models. So
yeah,
it's definitely like they find a Facebook group, like a photography/model Facebook group that's in your area, join it and sort of start keeping in contact with people, letting them know that you've never worked with models, and you'd probably be surprised at who would be willing to work with you to help you learn and work with you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we've got our next photo here. This photo is from Christian, and I love this photo. This is just absolutely amazing. So let me share Christian's info. And Christian also showed us some behind-the-scenes stuff. So after I read the info, we'll look at the photo and talk about it for a few minutes, and then we'll flip over to the behind-the-scenes. So Christian says, the making of this image was simplicity in photography in that oh, whoops, I'm looking at the wrong... sorry, I'm reading the wrong information. Okay, maybe we just have to go... I don't know if Christian added any info in there, but let's take a look at the behind the scenes real quick. I got to figure out which direction to go. Here we go. So here we have the behind the scenes for that photo.
Saying that he didn't say anything.
Okay, that's okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So Christian, if you want to just give us a little bit more info about the photo, you can go ahead. But these are the behind the scenes, so you can see how it was shot. Clean white backdrop. We've got the wrapper on the model, and then you can see two people holding the fabric out at left or right to create that movement and hold the wrap in place. And then he took this into Photoshop and edited out the excess and then filled out the rest of the white background to take it to that final shot, expanding the canvas as well, stretching the fabric as well to give you kind of this sort of very wide aspect shot, kind of like a widescreen movie shot almost. And then there's that completed in Photoshop look. So let's get back to the original photo. That's a slightly different pose on the model, but it gives you an idea of what he's working on. And then the black and white here as well. I love it. Like, I love it. Mark, I'm going to let you start.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a beautiful shot, very well executed, very well put together. Um, uh, this is a sort of like I like myself. I like black and white, and I think this is a very well suited one for black and white as well too.
Yep.
The lighting's fantastic.
Yep.
The work of photoshopping the background to make it all white. That's not really that complicated to do, but the fact that it's done and all nice and seamless is just it works very well. The great editing work, great shot, the great work on the model too. She's definitely knows how to pose well, and everything just is tied together perfectly in this one. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a beautiful interpretation of simplicity, similar in interpretation to mine, and where compositionally and photographically, it's a beautifully simple look, but there's also a rich complexity to it, which I really really like. I
Mm-hmm.
also agree the black and white treatment is really good for this. Were you gonna say something, Mark?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it also does fit the theme of simplicity too, because it's just basically black and white and lots of negative space and works well, and like it's a simplistic shot but not a simplistic shot, so it definitely fits the theme.
Yeah, yeah. RJ has an interpretation of simplicity. Says clean, simple frame, simple color palette, more about the subject than the environment. Yeah, that's a good way to interpret it. That's a really nice way to interpret it. Hansel Millshead makes a really good point. He says this would make an awesome maternity photo. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah,
this would be
definitely.
great for maternity. Christian says so my critique on myself, I don't like that her toes are crossed. I can see that now. I can see why you don't like that too. Obviously, that's pretty minor, and we're going to be more hard on ourselves. But I see what you're talking about there, and I agree. Like in a perfect world, her toes wouldn't be crossed there. Dean says awesome shot. Edith thinks it's an amazing shot. Rick says brilliant concept, advanced simplicity. Heartbreaks Lati, hello Heartbreaks Lati, says this is dope. Cochise says sexy and elegant. Brenda says wow, yeah, really like this. Dean says clean and crisp. Awesome
I'd like
stuff.
to steal the idea.
What's that? Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I'd
a
like to steal this idea.
yeah. I thought the same thing myself when I saw it. I'm like, oh damn, that's a beautiful idea. Like I might have to riff on that idea someday. Back to the modeling for a moment. Sandy says, I use myself as a model in my simplicity photo, only my hands, but it's a start. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you guys know what I think about putting yourselves in front of the camera. You know that I think that's a thing that you should definitely be doing. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Sandy. Okay, so let's find the next
Dean
photo.
wants to steal the idea too.
Looks like we got an idea that people definitely like. Okay,
Yeah, winner, chicken dinner.
right, exactly. So Rick, Christian, you've certainly inspired a bunch of people, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, this next shot that we're looking at right here, this is Rick Mentor's shot, and Rick said the making of this image was simplicity in photography, and that I went to the beach with my old compact Fujifilm X10, which is a 9-year-old compact camera, no tripod, no remote, simply wanted to capture an image that was easy to make and pleasing to the eye. And then he says, thanks for the review. Awesome. All right, Mark, I'll let you start on this.
Perfect. Yeah. I like the idea. It's definitely simplistic. You got the nice waves coming in. You got the single bird there, and like you said, using. I like the idea which I didn't think of as using simplistic equipment, because you're saying it's an old camera and just kind of showing up and doing it, no tripod, etc., and so on. So that's a brilliant take on it.
Mm-hmm.
But myself, being a landscape, I would prefer if it was like a wider format instead of square. But that's just me, and it's just a minor thing as well too. And I think the other thing would be the lower half, where the the waves and the sand and that. I think if it was a little bit brighter, it might look a little bit more balanced. But other than that, I like the concept. I like how you've gone for simplicity, and it definitely works. But just a couple of ideas for you to think about too, is when you're out and about and editing and doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I quite like it as well. The thing I love about shots like this is the layering that you get. As you start in the foreground, and then you have like the different color and texture layers because the water moves, you have the clouds in the sky, you have the gradation of the colors across that. I love images like this. I don't mind the more vertical or square-ish format, principally because these types of photos remind me of Rothko paintings, and I've always enjoyed Rothko paintings, which are typically vertical color studies. That being said, wider format landscapes make for amazing photos and are beautiful as well. So going either way works for me personally.
Right.
For me, like, this is super duper minor, like super duper minor and nitpicky. I'd lose the bird. Like, to
See, I don't
me,
mind the verb.
yeah, to me the bird doesn't ruin the shot, but the bird breaks the shot for me because I am engrossed in the landscape itself. I love the blues, and again, I love the layers and traveling through those layers, and for me the bird breaks me out of it. And again, it's minor. It's me versus you versus whomever, and however you love this photo or don't love it, or interpret it. So don't take it as right or wrong, but for me, if it was my shot, I would take the bird out because to me it's about this landscape, and the bird sort of breaks that for me.
Right.
But
That's
it's
fair enough.
gorgeous otherwise, yeah. And
And I do like the blues, like you mentioned. That they are nice blues for
I
sure.
love those blues. I love those blues. Yeah, Edith loves the blues in the framing as well. Great shot, Rick. Thank you so much for sharing. Cochise Heart says, always love coastal shots. Very nice. Yep. Yeah, you can't go wrong with a shot like this. It's beautiful. It is simple, in a good way, and it's a really great interpretation of the theme. Leo Manchetti says, I feel like the focus is too close to the camera, but it is an awesome shot. Interesting. I'm not sure that I see that. I mean, you certainly have focus and detail in the.
I'm thinking maybe he actually means, like, not necessarily the actual focus of the picture, but I think maybe the wave right at the forefront keeps you almost kind of want to look at that first wave, then you kind of go out and you come back to it because it's just sort of there. I think is maybe what he's talking about, instead of the actual focus of the picture. I think he means where you're focusing when you're looking at the picture. I believe
I
is
see. I see.
that's how I'm interpreting it. Anyways, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. I see what you're saying there. Harley says, I don't mind the bird. I wonder if it'd work better if the bird were on the vertical center, like the horizon is on the horizontal center. That's a possibility. I think it'd still break me out, but that's
Yeah,
just.
where to go though.
Woo! Got a bit of squelch there on that mic. Holy smokes. That startled me. Sorry.
No.
Edith says, awesome job. Yeah, it is a really nice shot. Okay, so let's move on to the next shot. I'm going to have to go past the behind the scenes from Christian, and then we'll get to this next one. So this is actually Dean Bostock's photo, and this is the information in the behind the scenes. I love how you presented this, by the way, Dean. This is great. So you can see the lighting set up, the little Amazon figure. There is a Godox in a 200-watt strobe in the snoot with a grid at camera right, pointing down to very tightly illuminate the little Amazon guy. And it says how the shot was taken. 2 shots, one with the strobe firing at 1/128th power, and then the second shot was taken at 30 seconds to capture Danbo's light-up eyes 2 shots layered in Photoshop. So the little figure has eyes that light up. So what we're going
Well,
for here,
I didn't notice that, but I didn't see it close enough yet.
yeah, when you look at it close, you can certainly see that. And this is a brilliantly executed shot, like brilliantly done. I love the lighting on this. I love the shadow that it's casting. I love the reflection, which is just enough to capture your attention and intrigue you without drawing away from the principal subject. I love the way you lit it and that you layered these 2 shots to get those the brightness of the eyes in there that light up. Like I just love this shot. I think it's brilliantly execued, and I honestly I wouldn't change a thing about it. I think it's great. What do you think,
Yeah,
Mark?
I completely agree. Now I'm actually looking at the one not through the stream, just through the link. I can see the eyes, and it was a smart idea doing that to take the 2 shots and layer them together like
Mm-hmm.
that. Is the reflection real, or is it? I'm just wondering if it's photoshopped in, because it almost looks too crisp in my opinion, but it does work though. I do like having the shadow in there. I'm just wondering if maybe it should be toned down a little bit. But
Mm.
other than that minor thing, it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, Dean says it.
It's so simplistic but works well.
Yeah, the reflection is real. Dean says.
Yeah,
So
cool.
very nice. I'm guessing that's was that like a sheet of black acrylic that you were using there, Dean? I have a couple sheets of black acrylic that I sometimes use for shots like this. Um, let's see here. Brenda says, "So great to see you behind the scenes." Oh, it was on a white tile. Nice. Okay, nice. So
Okay.
just the darkness of the scene blacked out most of it, except for the light hit it. Very nice.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, it's an amazing
Job well
shot.
done.
Edith says, Lewis says amazing. Christian says dope. Harley, great shot. Harry says, I like the depth. I think that's back to the previous shot. Frank says, great shot. Love the reflection. Yeah, this is awesome. Awesome. Very cool. All right, so we'll move on to the next shot, which is past mine. So this here is eggs. I love eggs. Love. Let me find our information on this. So
Over
this
easy.
this is Harley's. The eggs were taken by Harley on a Canon 77D at f4, one. I'm trying not to sneeze while I read this, guys. Okay, the sneeze went away. 77D, f4, 1/25th of a second, ISO 100, and 105 millimeters on the 70 to 105 lens. Go ahead, Mark. I'll let you start so I don't sneeze.
What did you say the aperture was?
F.
F4?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I'm curious as to whether this is actually lit with a strobe or whether it's just a window light, because I do like how it is lit from the one side, and it just gives you some extra depth to the eggs. So I think that's pretty cool. Uh, Something, a couple of minor things is sort of near the egg that's in focus. I know I've taken a second and cleaned up the little mark that's on the egg just to make it a little bit more cleaner. And there is sort of on the right hand side a big black spot. I'm not sure what that is, but I keep wanting to look over there. But it's definitely suits the theme. Nice, simplistic, just eggs all lined up like that. It works quite well. I really do like this one. Um, Something you could probably even experiment with is if you're shooting at f4 is next time you're trying something like this is maybe try like an aperture of f11, just to sort of, because right now you really only had the one egg in focus. If you shot at f11, then you probably would have got a couple more in focus, just to give it a little bit more interest to look around. But other than those minor things, I think it's works quite well. I like what you've done here.
Mm-hmm. I like it quite a bit as well. Dean says, I like the way it draws your attention to the bigger egg in the center row. Cochise Heart says, nice shot. Now I want an omelet. Yep. Me too. I love omelets. Edith says, awesome shot. Yeah. I think I agree, Mark. The cleanup is worth it on a shot like this where you're coming in on a tight detail. Like they're so minor, but at the same time, it's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
minor things that can break you out of a shot. So
Yeah.
the little spot
Break
on
an
the
egg.
on yep, right, exactly. So the little kind of orangish red spot on the egg, the little black spot kind of towards the right, a couple other spots on some of the other eggs, minor stuff, but it
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, it just it helps make it and focus the attention where you want it. I don't know if this was intentional or not, Harley, but I really do like how that one egg is just a little taller than all the rest, and it stands out because it gives the image a focal point that I think really helps it. It makes it a really strong image in its simplicity. Um,
Yeah,
I, I don't know. I would like to see more depth of field too, but I'm not sure I would like more depth of field, like you were talking about, Mark. I
yeah,
think the
it's
reason
hard to say.
for me, I think it's because that one egg is kind of standing out, and so it makes sense to me that the rest are falling more out of focus, and they're all giving context, but the principal focus becomes this sort of centralized egg that's sticking up a little bit.
Yeah, hardly saying that the egg was a happy accident having
Okay.
the one a little bit bigger.
Okay, yeah, that works out really well. Rick says, I like it how it is. Edith wants a cheese omelet. Cheese.
Yeah,
Oh, God. And Harley says
yeah,
this
because
wasn't. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say with being shot with you said 105 macro, I think you said,
Yeah.
but even with this being shot with the macro and being as close as you probably were, even if you opened it up to F11, the depth of field probably wouldn't have changed that much, but it might have just given it just a little bit more definition. It's hard to say, but it's just stuff to try while you're playing around
Yes.
with stuff like this, just to see exactly what does happen, what sort of differences you see between different shots, like the same shot but with different settings.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Harley does say that this wasn't the shot I intended to upload, but it was very similar without the blue background.
I don't
So,
mind the blue background
yeah,
myself.
I like the blue background. I think it's fine.
Yeah,
All right, so let's move on to the next shot here. This one is, let me see, Mon. Let me see if we've got any info in the room here. I'm not seeing whose this is, unless this might be Flavio's. I'm just guessing because of the comments here. It says taken during sunset yesterday by a field. I think this is Flavio's shot, but correct me if I'm wrong, Flavio. If I'm right, oh, here it is. 1/500th at 5.6. I found it. ISO 640, taken during sunset yesterday by a field near an area with wildlife in Spain. Found it. So this is pretty interesting because of the color of it. We've got a lot of that rich warmth of the sunset in here. And I like the depth of field on this one because it is
hmm
focusing the attention on the one animal. You can see enough to know that there's some other animals in the background, but you've put the focus really intensely on this one. I,
yep.
I think for me, the color, the warmth is a little too intense, and I'd have maybe balanced that a little bit less. Like embracing warmth can really work, but this feels the orange and the green together are kind of making it feel a little bit muddy to me. And so I think taking off the intensity of that orange a little bit, that
Maybe
warmth.
just cool it down just a hair, maybe.
Yeah, I think that might make it a little less muddy, and let the greens stand out a little bit more while still capturing some of that warmth that I think you were trying to capture in the shot here, Flavio. But
hmm
I mean, I think it's really nicely executed. I like the composition. You know, using those thirds can be really powerful. And here, that bird is about on the intersection of two thirds, which, you know, puts it in a really strong compositional position. This shot also has some really nice layers to it, so it gives you some energy and travel in the shot. And I like the energy of the bird moving in this other direction as well. So I think it's really nicely done. For me, the main thing is just adjusting that color and toning that down to make it a little less muddy. Christian's got
Yeah.
a dash. I was just gonna say bye to Christian real quick, and then I'll shut up. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. See you later, Christian. Have a good night. No, I agree. I like the way that it's on. Like it's on using the thirds in two directions. One, basically the line of focus is in the bottom third, and then the bird itself is on the right third. So I agree, and I do like the warm light, but I think I would also agree he could probably cool it down just a hair because it is, like I said, the greens to me the greens don't quite look right. I think because of that warmth. The other thing too that you may or may not want to do is the birds that are in the background. Maybe just like take a brush and just maybe just bring the exposure down on them a little bit, because I do
Burn them
find
down a bit.
yeah, because I do find them a little bit distracting. Like you know they're there and they're obviously birds and they obviously belong there, but I think if they're toned down a little bit, it wouldn't be as distracting from the main subject.
Right, right. Um, let's see. Flavia said yes. In retrospect, I agree. That's why I uploaded this. Oh, I didn't realize that you had two photos in here. Um, so we'll take a quick look at that other one, but we have a lot of photos, so we probably won't spend as much time on it, Flavio. Rick says I noticed the color immediately and like it. Says it's a nice accent to the overall picture. Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, for me it doesn't work quite as well, but I totally understand. And as always, these are our interpretations, and it's always open to how you
Hmm.
each interpret a photo as well.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, Edith also doesn't mind the warmth too much. She says so. There's certainly a
Yeah.
place for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Ooh, this is very pretty. So let's see what we got here. Rep. So some little flowers, some water, simplicity, art, question mark. Can be found in nature during a photo shoot walk near my hometown. I just noticed these small flowers in a little pond, took my camera and took the shot with my 55 to 240 lens, handheld. Quite pleased with this simple, almost meditative picture. And I think this is... oh, here we go. Settings of the photo with white flowers in a pond. It's ISO 400 or 1/400th of a second. I cannot read today. Sorry, 400th of a second. ISO 500 f 5.6, 231 millimeters. Ugh. I'm gonna shut up, Mark, because I can't talk.
No, I think the settings are ideal for this, because the depth of field really, the focus is on this flower that's kind of in the middle, a little bit off to the left, but it's still also down the bottom third too. So I like that, and I like the fact that the reflection is also like almost symmetrical. I really like how that looks. The other flowers on the left hand side, they're a little bit out of focus, but I don't mind, because to me, anyways, the main subject is these ones that has beautiful reflection here. The other ones just they're there and they add to it, but they don't really. To me, that's not the main part of the subject. It's that the flower that's sort of more in the center. I like the processing. The processing looks nicely done. It definitely fits the theme of simplistic, and I think it works well.
Yeah, I quite like it as well. I agree with everything you said. That one, as the principal focus, is really strong. The others there, slightly out of focus, don't draw too much attention and allow you to kind of experience that flower in its context. I think meditative is a good description for this, as this person said about this. Quite pleased with the simple, almost meditative picture, and I think that's accurate. The blue
Hmm.
provides a really beautiful contrast for the green and the white, and I like the reflections a lot as well. This is really nicely done. I like the balance of it too. You've got a lot of compositional weight on the left, and then you've got this negative space on the right that's balancing out. And it has that
Hmm.
negative space has some interest in it, because you have it's either reflections or actually underwater greenery that we're seeing in it. But either way, it adds some complexity to that negative space without being too
Yeah, yeah,
distracting. Brenda
I
says
agree.
she adores it. Yeah. Rick says so lovely. The reflections, kind of Japanese simplicity. Edith loves the reflection, says it's a pretty shot. Yeah, I agree absolutely. I think it's really, really nice. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I love seeing, is all of these different interpretations on this theme, and how you look at a thing and how you interpret a thing, and then how we see it and talk about it. I think it's really wonderful. Excuse me. This is Mark's shot, and Mark said he had to dash because he had to go to bed. Mark MCs. So let me just find. No flowers were damaged in the creation of this image. Mark says this is a fake rose. It was shot at f3.5, 1/125th of a second, ISO 100, no flash. All right, real
Cool.
quick.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say real quick. Hansel Mills said, I also like how the shadows balanced the picture. Yeah, I like that as well on that last shot. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what like I could tell. I knew it was obviously a rose, and I was like, something doesn't quite, it wasn't quite right about it. And then you said it wasn't a real rose. Like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
uh, yeah, because I've done shots similar to this, but usually what I like to do, but being the fact that it wasn't a real rose, it looks like it was cloth or something. It probably wouldn't work because I like to put spray water on it so you get water droplets. It really can really add some drama to a photo like this. I do like the concept though. It's like I said, I've done pictures like this, so I can completely relate to it. I would like to see it a little bit, the exposure brought up maybe half a stop or so, because I don't mind, like myself. I like dark photos, but to me, I think this one's just a little bit too dark. But again, that's just me.
oops.
If he was going for this sort of a mood, then that that's obviously what he was looking for. But I like the composition. It is on the thirds, and all natural light. I think you said, right, no flash used.
Correct.
Yes, yeah. So, but the fact that there's no flash used but natural light, it's definitely directional light, because it's giving you lots of depth the way the lighting is hitting it. So it's well spotted with something like that for sure.
Yeah, this is a really powerful, beautiful composition. I love the color and the monochromatic aspect that Harley mentions, and I agree with Dean. Dean says I like the mood and the shadows of this rose image. It's really very nice. Like Harry says, it's the colors are beautiful. The composition is really beautiful. The intimacy of this is really wonderful as well. The intimacy does show off that it's a fake rose, but whatever. It's still a beautiful, beautiful
It is what
shot.
it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I agree. I think bringing the exposure up a hair, like half a stop, maybe maybe 2/3 of a stop. You don't want to go too far with something like this, but I cranked the brightness on my screen up here all of the way, and with the brightness at 100%, it looks really really nice. And my guess is that when oh, my brain has just stopped. When Mark was editing it, he probably had his screen brightness at 100%. And just your friendly reminder that when you're editing your photos, you really should be setting your screen brightness to around 50%, because that's a better representation of the exposure of the image. You got to remember your screens are emitting light, and so they make the images look brighter than they actually are. And if you
Yeah,
want to,
and use the histogram.
yes, exactly, use the
The
histogram.
histogram's a good guide.
Yes, absolutely. So, otherwise, like really, really wonderful shot. I really like it.
Yep.
Hansel Mills says, I feel like water droplets would add innocence to this picture, where this picture gives a dangerous allure feeling, and in this picture, I really like the dark feeling. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's definitely fair enough
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. In fact, that's something that I wasn't quite figured out how to express until you said it. But there's a darkness to this and an allure that I like, that you hit on, Hansel. I really agree with that. Sandy added that I didn't think it was fake. It looks real to me. It does. Like as soon as we read it was fake, and then I looked at it, I could see the texture of the fabric. But until then, I
Mhm.
didn't realize that it was fake. All right. Ooh, Leo uploaded a photo. We'll get to it, Leo. If we gotta, I mean, Mark, if you gotta go, but we'll get through. I'm gonna stay to the end till we get through all your photos, guys.
No,
All
I
right.
think I'm good for tonight too.
Yeah. So we've got our next photo, and this is Brenda Pelcher shot. And Brenda said, Pletcher, sorry, I said Pelcher. Pletcher. Brenda says, this is the flag with the cloud was shot from my front porch when the wind was making the flag dance. It is also my first attempt to replace the background and other editing using her trial of Corel's Photoshop program. So this is the edited photo, and then this is the original shot. So, Mark, I'll let you start on it.
Well, just give me 1 second. I'm not sure if I'm looking at because I'm not looking through the stream because it's cutting it out. So I'm not sure if I'm looking
Okay.
at the real one or the. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I just want to make sure I was looking at the edited one first.
Okay.
Oops, now I lost it. Hold on. Okay, no, it definitely fits the theme of simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for a first go at editing, and especially like a composite like that, I think it's well done. It's definitely, you can see it's a little rough around the edges, but definitely for a first go, like definitely well done with that. It could use a little bit of cleaning up, but uh, like I said, it's probably better than what I would have done my first time doing it,
Well,
and even nowadays, because this sort of stuff I'm not that good at. I openly admit that.
yeah.
But a, a couple of things that I would probably also do while you're if you're go back and revisit it, or even just doing some quick cleaning up, is like I'm just not sure what all these random white spots that are sort of across the top left and the top right, but I'd probably maybe clean them up as well too.
Hmm.
But other than that, I think it works. It definitely fits the theme. It's like I said, for a first go at doing an edit like this, so I think it's well done. Maybe the other thing you might want to do is in the bottom left corner, you got like a couple little trees just poking their heads through. You could probably easily edit those out as well too. So literally all you have is the flag there in the sky. But that's my 2 cents are worth on this.
Yeah, for a first go at doing a more complicated edit like this, Brenda, I think you did a really nice job. One of the hardest things to do in these kinds of edits is, excuse me, cut something out. Oh, I got the hiccups from another photo, and then put it seamlessly into another one. And you did it. There I go again. I got the hiccups. Okay, you did it. You did a very nice job for your first time. You're right. Brenda said the flag looks a little bit chewed. It does look a little bit chewed. So learning how to refine selections and make the edges of selections cleaner is something that you'll obviously get better at as you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely agree with Mark. The cleanup of the artifacts that we see in the background, whatever happened in the process, we have. It looks like a lot of sensor spots, but I know it's from the editing process and whatever ended up happening. And then there's also like little spots of dirt, or not dirt, but like the white and other bits and bobs of part of the other image sort of showing through or being included in this. And again, I understand that this is your first time doing this, so this is just stuff to watch for and to work on improving on as you go through this. I really like the idea of compositing this and the fact that you flip the flag around and we're really working with these different orientations. I agree with, I think, Cochise Hart said, or somebody else said, Edith said, I'd like to see the sky a bit brighter. I agree. And consequently, if you brighten the sky, you'd probably also want to brighten the flag a little bit as well. Not too much, but to kind of give that brightness to the rest of the image.
Yeah,
And then,
one thing I'll add too, sorry to interrupt, but just while I'm thinking of it, because I'll forget otherwise, is sometimes you get composites like this where the background and the subject don't match just because the lighting's totally different, or this, that, or the other thing. But I think the selection you did of using these two subjects together work well as well too, because they work well with each other. It's just they're well suited for each other.
yes, I absolutely agree. The lighting matching is excellent. And the idea was excellent, and the execution for your first time also excellent. Obviously
Yeah,
room to improve, but that's fine.
that's
Fernando,
part of
hello.
learning.
Exactly, that's part of learning. Fernando says, love the wave. It's not until you actually try to achieve this type of image that you'll see that although there's simplicity in the picture, capturing a moment like this isn't that simple. And that's absolutely
Yeah.
true. Capturing a flag flapping like that can actually be fairly difficult. So having caught that kind of action in the flag is also another accomplishment in the photo here, Brenda. And it's great. It really is. And I love seeing you push yourself this way, both with the new camera and with your editing. Like, I'm excited for you. I am super excited for you, Brenda, because I love seeing this. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we're able to be part of your photography journey.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I want to add real quick, just as another tip to look at when you're doing these kinds of photos and composites, and I'm going to zoom in on this shot real quick. You'll see like the little whoops, I hit the screen there. The little bit of greenery at the top edge of the flag here. Now that I think is just again refining the edge. But one of the other things you have to be careful of is actual color casts from your background. It's pretty subtle, but I can see it because I know it's there. if you look at the flag, particularly in some of the shadow areas, like I'm going to zoom in right here, there's a hint of green in these shadows. And that's because in the original shot, of course, it was in and around all of this greenery, and that greenery is reflecting some of that light back onto the flag. And so, one of the other things you want to watch for when you're doing composites, again, as you're learning and growing, is the color cast of the images that you're combining and correcting them to bring them together, and then possibly adding colors to the thing as a whole to continue to bring it together. Beautiful, beautiful job, Brenda. Thank you very much to
Mhm.
you and everybody else for sharing your photos with us.
Definitely.
This is Sandy's piano shot. I got to find Sandy's info in here.
I think it was Sandy said she was her own model for this, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
yes, she was. Just her hand, she said, but it's a start, which I agree. My
Yep.
personal class, Brenda says. That's awesome. That's super awesome. Here we go. This is kind of a self-portrait, Sandy says, with the M50 on a tripod. This was shot at 1/160th, f1.8, and ISO 6400. All right, Mark, I'll let you start.
Okay. First thing, just a quick note with the settings. You said you were on a tripod, so it, as long as you weren't moving, you could have actually had your ISO down to like maybe not 100 because it might have been extremely dark in there, but maybe like even 400 or even 800 just to kind of keep the noise down a little bit. But like I said, the fact you're on a tripod was you could have gone for a little bit of a longer shutter speed to compensate for the higher ISO. But other than that, it's a great shot. I think it's well suited for black and white, just because the piano has black and white keys and the music is basically black and white. I think black and white is a perfect choice for this. It just works, and the depth of field I think works quite well too, because basically for the most part your hand is mostly in focus, and you do see your other hand there, but it's not too bright, it's not distracting at all, and I think it works quite well what you've done here. I really like it. Like I said, the only thing just to maybe consider is thinking about the higher ISO for any time you're doing something like this, especially with something that's not moving or has limited movement, where you can get away with a longer shutter speed.
Yeah, I particularly like the noise in it, but you're absolutely right, Mark, that it's not necessary. If you're shooting something like this, you could certainly bring it down if you wanted to. I think the
Yeah,
noise. Go ahead.
and I was going to say, if you had a photo that didn't have noise, it'd be easy enough to add it if you wanted it, versus if you
Yes.
didn't want it and it was there.
Yeah, and then trying to get it out. Absolutely right. I love the composition of this. I love the story it's telling. I love the black and white treatment. I think that's spot on for that. Tim says the same. I think the black and white was definitely the way to go on this shot. Coach Cheeseheart said lovely shot. Edith said beautiful and awesome. Harley agrees that the black and white works well as well. Dean says nice black and white. Highlights a little too bright for me, and I would like to see the first finger in focus. Great idea, nice feel of the image. Funny you mentioned that, Dean, because we actually did take a look at this shot last week when Mark was gone and Zara joined us. And Zara also said she would have liked to see a little bit more depth of field to get that first finger in focus. I'm okay with the highlights being a bit hot. For me, I think it actually adds to the image, but I also see what you're saying on that.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, but like I think this is a beautiful shot, Sandy, and I think you really captured the simplicity in this. I love the story you're telling. The noise again gives it a really beautiful mood, and the black and white treatment is great. I can see the merit of having that first finger in focus, the pinky in focus, but it doesn't really bother me that much. Um, I just think it's a really beautiful shot.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that to me the first finger being out of focus didn't bother me, just because I think for the most part it's the bigger fingers that I would think are doing the work on the piano anyway. So
Hmm.
this I kind of think of them as the main subject, but I'm not a piano player, so I'm just taking a completely random guess. But just another quick thing that I didn't mention before is good use of the rule of thirds too.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely.
Definitely perfect composition on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Edith said it doesn't. The fingers don't bother her either. She thinks it's a beautiful shot. Yeah, very nicely done, Sandy. Thank you. So this is Flavio's other shot, the deer. We'll just spend a quick minute on this one. I think like this really captures simplicity. I love how gnarly this deer looks. By the way, like this deer looks like it was rode hard. Put it like it went out on a bender last night. Like it was drinking and smoking and partying, and then like crashed, and then woke up and was like, "Oh my
What the
god!"
hell did I just do?
Right. But I think this is a really nicely done shot, Flavio, and I love what you captured here. The intensity in the eye here is really, really nice. It looks like it
Yeah.
needs some coffee, Harry says. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Mark, what do you
Woke
think?
up on the wrong side.
Yeah, go ahead and share your thoughts real quick, and then we'll move on to the next shot.
Well, and I like it. I like the fact the backlighting on it and how it's kind of giving some nice highlights all around it and reflecting on those wild, crazy hairs. It just makes it just helps add to the drama of it being like you said, a crazy drunken night.
Right, exactly. Oh, hello to MJ Sisista. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I apologize, MJ. Just joined us. Let's see. Brenda likes the lighting. Harry says, nice shot. Frank says, deer's life. Yeah, exactly. Coach Cheesehart says, the deer looks like me after college parties. That's hilarious. Yeah, Edith loved it. That's a really good shot, too. I really like it. Beautifully framed. It is Edith. Okay, this is Steve's photo. Steve says, we went to our niece's first communion, and when I walked in, I had to get a simple shot like this. This was shot with the Nikon Z6, 50mm f1.8 S lens. This was 1/200th of a second, ISO 500 and f1.8. Steve says, I tried to keep it perfectly center. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I definitely think he kept it perfectly center. It's I'm one of those people who say break the rules if you can break them, and it works. In this case, it does because basically you're not really using the rule of thirds because the main subject is straight down the middle, but it's just so symmetrical. It works perfectly. I love how this is framed. Um, I, I love how you can see the details in the windows. You didn't blow out the highlights, so that can be tricky in itself. The only thing I might suggest would be to raise the shadows a little bit more, just so that you can see more of the colors inside of the church. But other than for me, that's just a minor detail because being dark like this, it does kind of capture a mood. But I'd also, if it was brighter, I think it just might bring some of those blues out a little bit more, and some of the wood in the pews and up the front and everything else. But other than that, it's beautiful. Like it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. The framing on this is really spectacular. It's very very well framed, very symmetrical. I think you did nail it dead center there, Steve. It was literally a 2-minute edit. He says, "Okay, it's beautifully framed." Edith agrees. Frank says, "I always struggle with windows." I think what helps here, I'm sure, is the dynamic range of the Z6 and being able to shoot this in such a way to capture the windows. Like certainly, if with RAW you can lift the shadows in post, but if Steve had shot this to lift the shadows, then we'd lose those windows. So what's happening here is, intentional or not, Steve shot this, and I'm guessing intentionally, to not overexpose, to not blow out those windows, let the shadows fall where they are, and then
he said he exposed for the highlights, which would have been the windows.
Yep, perfect, exactly. I love the blue in this. The color balance is certainly quite warm on this one, also because it's in the church. I kind of feel like I'd like to see a little less warmth in this one too. Like towards the back, it doesn't look quite so warm, so I'm not sure if all of that. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with it because, like, if I zoom in here, the whites look pretty good actually. Like I can definitely see some warmth in the whites there. So there's certainly some there, and I get embracing that warmth. I'm not always like, oh, the color's got to be perfect, blah blah blah, all the time. But for whatever reason, on this one as well as on Flavio's shot, like the warmth was just a bit too much for me, for some reason. But that's just just my mood tonight, and whatever. So you take that for what it's worth. Everything
Yeah,
else
and
about it, I think, is really nice. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I do think bringing the exposure up a little bit on the interior might take, I guess, for lack of a better term, the muddiness out of the whites and just make them more white looking.
Okay. Oh gosh. Steve said the color temp in there was like 2000 Kelvin. So
Oh,
warm, super warm, and then the windows were like 6000. So that's a huge variance in the color balance. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
gonna make it
definitely tricky.
definitely tricky. Hey Brian, how's it going? Brian says I like the lines of light in the aisle kind of lead you to the altar. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And Steve said, yeah, the ISO on that camera is crazy good. ISO 500 on this is like ISO 64 on my D850. Wow, that's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah, definitely.
Brenda says, I love this. You are all inspiring. Edith says, beautifully framed. Yeah, this is really great. Steve said, yep, exposed to the highlights and brought out the shadows a bit. Okay. Coach Cheeseheart
Oh,
says,
and
really like that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, by the way, Steve, if you haven't heard, check your camera because some of the Z6s and Z7s have had recalls on them.
I think he checked already and his was clear, if I
Oh,
remember
okay. Well,
correctly. Because I shared that out on my Facebook as well. All right, we've got. Oh, yep, he's good. He says he already checked it.
right on. Good stuff.
Okay, so let's see here who this photo belongs to. Steve. This is Wayne's photo. Hey, Wayne, how's it going, bud? Wayne says, this is ISO 100, f3.2, and 1/125th of a second. Got the bird right before it flew off.
That's
Awesome.
cool.
Go ahead, Mark.
That's a cool shot. I love the look on the bird itself and playing in the water there and the squirrel kind of overlooking him, even though it's not a real squirrel. But I do feel like the image is tilted a little bit. It feels like it's leaning a little bit to, from my point of view, to the left. Like it could be straightened out a little bit that way. It's definitely a nice simplistic image. Some of these bright colors, like right behind the squirrel's tail, that orange. You might want to take a brush and maybe just tone it down a little bit because it is kind of in the background, but it's still bright and kind of pulls your eye away. But a minor thing like some of those blues are kind of bright too, and what have you. But other than those minor things, I said I like the image, and I love how you've captured the bird just getting ready to squawk at you and getting ready to take off. So
Right.
that's beautiful. I like it. It's a well captured moment for sure.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. The main issue I see is the same thing you pointed out. It feels a little bit like it's tilting to the left. It's a hair. I think it's principally because the bottom of the bird bath is sort of like our horizon in this image, for lack of any
Right.
other sort of straight lines, and that does appear to be tilting it. That's a super minor thing. You guys know, like that's a thing that just catches both of our eyes, and we got to point it out. It's almost a running joke at this point, like my behind the scenes shot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But outside of that, like this is really wonderful. Again, I love the expression. Like we've got some expressive animals tonight, which I think is really great. Coach Cheeseheart says maybe the bird needs to go on a diet. That's why it's tilted. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the colors and the richness of what's around the bird without that being overwhelming. It helps it feel. It helps capture the simplicity without being too simple. And that's, too simple isn't a criticism either, but this could be a really bright and loud photo with all of that in focus. But using this depth of field to let that fall out and just really focus our attention on the bird is a really nicely done tactic, and I like the way this was done. Here he says, I like it. Maybe bump up the contrast a bit. Yeah, it's a touch flat, which when I say flat, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, it is. And depending upon your particular aesthetic, you may want to increase the contrast, you may want to decrease, right? Like if you look across Instagram, you'll see a ton of, crushed blacks on photos because that's the way to go to flatten it out and give it the quote unquote cinematic look. But yeah, I think contrast would help this a little bit, make the black of the bird a little bit richer, in fact. Edith loves the colors. This is Wayne Reed's. Wayne was here earlier, but maybe crashed out because it's pretty late in the UK. And so I totally understand that. Yeah, I love it too. I think it's a really nice shot. All right, let us take a look at the next photo. We've got a ton of photos tonight. This is Tim's shot. This is a really great shot. I love the story in this shot. All right, so Tim says, I went out shooting some damn photos. That's the spirit for this theme.
Yeah.
I came home, and before I started editing, I snapped this photo of my dog, Allie, watching the neighborhood yard sale. I thought, what's more simplistic than a random shot of your dog with a smartphone? And the
Yeah.
settings here from the phone were ISO 57, f1.8, and 125 of a second with a 4.45 millimeter focal length. All right, Mark, go ahead.
Nice. The one thing that I'm surprised at is the
Oh,
fact that
sorry. Don't mean to interrupt. One
oh,
last thing. Tim added, just as a preface for my shot, I canceled my Adobe membership, so this photo is not edited, and the photo is definitely not straight. Cutting us off at the pass. Okay, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
okay. I was going to say that the one thing that I'm quite surprised at is that the dog is lit. Like the balance of the shot from the inside to the outside is pretty well balanced. Usually you have something inside that you're shooting for, and outside is way over. Like you can't see what's going on outside, or if you expose for the outside, then the inside is super dark. So I'm surprised with that. So kudos for that. If this Tim, if this is a photo that you're planning on editing or not, that I don't know, but I would suggest maybe that if you do, like, actually, I don't think it's actually all that crooked, because looking at the window frame, it looks right, but the corner of the wall on the left hand side, it throws you off because it's on an angle. It's probably just because of the wide angle of the lens, but you could probably just easily just crop that in a little bit and basically get rid of that, and then I think it'd look great. Then that wall wouldn't throw you off. And I guess the one other thing that's throwing me off is the TV or whatever that is that's sitting there, because it was when I first looked at it, I was like, why is there a chunk missing out of the picture? I thought maybe that something didn't photograph properly, and then I realized, oh, it's a TV or something there. But I agree, it's a nice simplistic shot. It definitely fits the theme, and again, like I said, I'm impressed with the exposure based off of how the fact that you guys are inside, obviously, and the outside still looks nice and bright. So kudos for that for sure.
Yeah, RJ points out, and I'm fairly certain that Tim's got a Google Pixel, which has the pretty incredible camera that really that in camera takes the series of photos and stacks them up to essentially create a really great HDR sort of image. Which is
Right,
what?
right.
Okay, it's the Pixel 2. Yeah, so he's got. I mean, you've got beautiful window light there that you're working with. It looks to me like there's window light coming from camera right behind the TV, because you've got the right side of Alley lit up there, which is really
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
And then the camera, the software and the Pixel doing a lot of the lifting to broaden that dynamic range and make it so that we don't lose Alley inside with the brightness of the outside. I see exactly what you're saying, Tim and Mark, about that left side throwing you off. That would be a fairly easy fix, being cropping otherwise. And I also agree, like taking out that TV is or cropping it out, or cloning a bit of the wall over and covering it up, whatever you might want to do to take that out. And at the same time, this was, for lack of a better word, more of a snapshot. This wasn't something that was planned. He was actually about to edit and then saw this opportunity and took it. So sometimes in those situations, you're left with what you got, and then you kind of work with it in the edit to make it as best as a shot as you can make it. So I really like it. I like this.
I guess you could say for a snapshot, it's well executed. I really like it.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a great moment, and when I say that, I don't mean that at all as a criticism. And I'd certainly, once Tim gets his editing situation sorted out, moving away from Adobe, I'd really like to see what happens with the editing on this one, because I think it'll be an even greater photo once he's had some time to kind of refine it. Yeah. RJ says it's a great moment. He says, I wonder what the Woof box is thinking about. Yeah, that's hilarious. Fernando says the window light is amazing. For a phone capture, it's amazingly well done. Yeah, it really is. It's really nice shot. I really like it. I think it's got a great story. Frank says night shot is amazing. What's interesting is, this is a little bit of a diversion, but Huawei with their P30 Pro, I think, has actually superseded um, Google's current camera capabilities with the Pixel 3. So I love seeing this one-upmanship in camera technology in smartphones because it just makes it better for everybody in the end. And I think that's amazing. All right. This next photo, let's see here, is Luis's photo. For the simplicity theme, I tried to focus more on the simple things that make my son happy. In this case, getting his feet wet. Taken with a 50 millimeter at 2.8, the image was cropped for a better composition, and because I didn't want to get my feet wet.
Yeah, at least it's truthful, right?
That's hilarious. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
yeah, I like this. I like the fact that your son is sharp and focused. The background isn't as sharp, so he does stand out from the background. It's not as super blown out as you'd normally see for a portrait, but I still think it works because it's just blurry enough that he stands out, and his colors really pop him off the background as well too. And I also love the fact that it looks like he's walking on water because he sees something like this. You don't think the water is actually that shallow, and I think also the fact that you capture it just as these fountains are getting ready to erupt or have already erupted, I think is cool because otherwise it would just be like just a flat bunch of water. But the fact that you've got those getting ready to spout or whatever the case is there, it just sort of adds to the story. And this is definitely a case of a photo that's telling a story, and the story is about your son and how he enjoys water so much, and it's just all these little fountain spurts and everything just definitely add to it. It's definitely a well captured photo.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like that he's facing away from us. I think that helps add to the simplicity because
I
it
think so too.
yeah, it feels like he's in his own world, enjoying the water, being a kid, doing his thing, and we're kind of peeking in on that. I really like that feeling. I love the placidity of most of the water with the fountains interrupting it, like you were just talking about, Mark. I think that adds some energy to the photo without it being overwhelming. And
Hmm.
I think that building working as a background works fine because it's falling out of focus. It's not super depth of field here, but it is, it's out of focus enough that our attention is squarely on your son where you wanted us. And it helps too that you used some of those compositional tricks, the rule of thirds, and there's also some of these other intersecting lines and whatnot that kind of point our attention in that direction. So I think it's a really nicely done shot. Edith
Hmm.
says, "Yeah, a Kodak moment." That's exactly it. That's a really nice
Yeah.
way to describe it. Oh, this is funny. Talking about Tim's shot, Edith said, "I wonder if your dog had plans to buy something at the rummage." That's hilarious. Yeah, yeah, very nice work on this, Luis. I really like this shot. I think it's well done and
Hmm.
captures a really beautiful moment in its simplicity.
Yeah.
Okay, this is George's shot, and George's did tell us to skip it because it's not technically from the time period. But I figured we'd take just a quick minute to look at it because we've let him skate through before when people didn't realize. So let me just find George's info. I'm not sure if he shared any. I don't think he did, but that's okay. Go ahead and just share your thoughts on this one, Mark, real quick.
Sure. I like old places like this where you don't know if it's abandoned or isn't abandoned, and I think the black and white works really good in this situation. It just is well suited. Something you might want to consider. Maybe you did multiple shots of this, but to me, if it was me shooting this, and again, this is just my style, I would have got a little bit lower. So I was looking kind of more, instead of looking down into them, kind of more looking across them. So if you are ever back in a situation shooting something like this, is give some thought as to looking at things at different angles, because this is a good shot. I have absolutely no issues with it, but just changing your position slightly could make a big difference as to make like a great shot like this into maybe potentially even a better shot. But other than that, like I said, I like the processing. Like this one here looks grainy. I don't mind the grain in this one because it just looks like it could almost be like an old film picture, just because it just has that feel to it. So
Yep.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, this also has those flatter crushed blacks that I was talking about, and I think it really helps this image. I think it 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 works really well along with the grain to give this
Hmm.
that sort of vintage older feel. I agree with what you're saying. Exploring these different perspectives could give us something that may be even better. This is quite nice though. I like the focus on these sinks. George says this is from a Shaker Village, and Brenda says it looks like soapstone stinks. It's a living museum shot at 17 millimeters on the Sigma 17 to 50 f2.8, 1/80th of a second, and ISO 2000.
Nice.
I think the black and white treatment is also a really, really good choice. I think that's a good augmentation here. And this is an image that, as far as the composition goes, it's a little more complex, but I still think it captures the simplicity because it echoes a simpler time, which is what Tim was talking about earlier when he was shooting, talking about having shot the barns, and this evokes that. Particularly when I see the roller, the wash roller, or whatever that is, towards the back. That really pulls me out of sort of the modern era and puts me back into the quote unquote simpler time era. And then the blacks being crushed, whether that was done in the edit or if that's just how it was captured, that the sort of flatness of the image takes away a little bit of the complexity that might otherwise go from having those shadows opened up and being able to see more inside the sink and see more of the floor and things like that. So I think it works out really well. I think it's a very nice shot, George.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Sandy says I have to take a trip out to the Shaker Village, drive by it all the time, but I've never went inside. Okay, he did crush the blacks in edit, yeah, and I think that was a really good choice, George. I think it worked out really
I
well.
agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, this is cool. This is Edith's photo right here. And Edith said, I thought of a morning cup of coffee as something simple. When I thought of the idea, I was set on getting the steam from the cup. After a couple of shots, this is the one that I loved. The settings on this are 1/200th of a second, f8, ISO 100, 180/200 in a gridded softbox, and the power was either full or 1/2 power. Go ahead, Mark.
This is definitely a simplistic shot, and I like it. It's so simple. It works quite well. The lighting works well. The the couple of minor things, like I see sort of on the left hand cup, just up a little bit on the left hand side, there's a couple of white spots there that could easily be edited out, and even on the smaller cup too, there's a couple of spots there. Like one's a water drop, but that one I might have been tempted to edit those ones out myself. Uh, but I think especially the two spots on the left hand cup, I'd edit those out because they don't look like they belong, and they'd be quick edits. The only other thing I can think of is the again on the left hand side, you can tell that you had it lit from the left, and the highlights on the left hand side of the cup and the saucer as well too are blowing out because they're basically they're blending in a lot to the tabletop or tablecloth or paper or whatever it is you have everything sitting on. So you might have needed to tone your light down a little bit, or maybe change the angle, or possibly even got it further away so it'd be less drop off between the one cup and the other cup. But then you do that, then you're starting to get harder light as well too. So it sort of can be a bit of a balancing act to get things right. But like I said, those are just minor. But otherwise, I really like the concept, and it definitely works quite well in here in this shot.
I love the concept and I love the execution. I particularly love that you captured the steam and that you worked to capture that. That's excellent. It adds so much to this shot. That steam there is just it's awesome. I
And the
agree with
black and white.
Mark. Yes, yeah, it absolutely does. That bit of coffee over there, if you look at the Pyrex, it's being poured, and then the coffee is actually running down, and it's coming down to the bottom and then dripping off, and that's the droplet that you see on the right hand side there. And we have a Pyrex measuring job like that, and I can confirm that they pour like shit, which is why the coffee's running all over the place and dripping. I agree with you, Mark. I'd probably take the time to Photoshop out the droplets and the white spots. Um, and adjusting the light would be a good way to go. I didn't notice it until you pointed out, because I was so entranced with the steam and everything else that it just, you know, I hadn't even gotten around to that part of the image, so to speak. But recovering those highlights or adjusting the lighting to bring that back, I think would be good. But outside of that, compositionally, the only other thing that I'd add is I think the second cup maybe could go, the one that's over here on the right hand side underneath. I think that pulls a little bit of our attention away from the coffee and the pour and the steam. So I think having the one cup would make it, just the one cup would make this just a little bit stronger. It's still a very strong, very beautiful image, and I love the simplicity of it and the story that you captured with it, and that steam. That steam is just fantastic. Edith says, "Can you tell that I'm obsessed with low key shots?" I'm with you. I love low key stuff, and I love seeing your low key shots, Edith. I think they're really wonderful.
Yeah.
Tim's got a jet.
Have a good night, Tim.
All right, I'm not the best editor. That's all right, Edith. I mean, we're all on our own journey, and we're all figuring these things out, and we're all at whatever our level is. So,
When you continue to edit, you continue to learn, and everyone's style is going to be different. So,
yep, yeah, absolutely. All right, really, really beautiful shot. Thank you so much, Edith. Yeah, those Pyrex pour terribly. They're so awful. Okay, let's see here. Fantastos. Let me find the info for this shot. I'm not seeing information on this one. Okay, Edith says, "I thought it was a good idea to add a prop." I can see where you're going with the idea, Edith. I think it'd be, like I said, I think it'd be a little strong without, but I get the idea. And this is the kind of experimentation and testing and deciding what you like or don't like that works.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as always, bottom line, if you like it, that's what's most important. Excellent.
No,
This is
Frank,
whoops.
no, I
This
was just
is
going to say Frank put the info in there, but you saw it at the same time.
yeah.
So,
All right. Go ahead, Mark. I'll let you read off the info, and then you can just go ahead.
okay. Frank says it was shot with his Nikon D5200, ISO 100, 50 millimeters, f16, and 1/40th of a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those settings are great for the starburst, because to get that sort of effect, just for people who don't know, you usually want to have your aperture closed down quite a bit. Like, so you never get that effect if you're shooting at like f2.8 or f4 or something like that. You basically you want to have like f11, f16, or even a higher number / smaller aperture. But you do have to be careful, because if you get your aperture too small, and you can start degrading the quality of your image as well too. So it's just something to keep in mind. But apart from that, it's definitely suits the theme. It's simplistic. It's not an easy shot to do, but so the effect you can get is works pretty good. But it's something that basically anybody could do if they know the technique, and therefore it basically does make it for a simplistic photo, with just having a nice starburst like that coming through the trees. I think the black and white works well here as well too, because we're probably fighting with the exposure on the trees and getting everything balanced right. So you might have had some darker areas versus some brighter areas with the greens and that from the trees. So I think both black and white was probably a good choice here, just to sort of make the editing a little bit more simplistic. Like, not simplistic, but a little more. I think you know what I mean. Where it's just less problems with greens being brighter in one area and darker in another. Whereas with it's just black and white, you have less tones to be fighting with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is Harley's got to run. Thank you very much, Harley, for joining as usual.
Yeah, night, Harley.
So Frank said I had to play around with the settings before I got the shot and added the black and white in the edit. It's really nicely done. I like, again, obviously this is the theme for tonight, so we're saying this a lot, but there's a great simplicity here. This could be super chaotic, and I think the black and white helps it be less chaotic, because the color that we'd get out of all of the leaves and the greenery in the background, and then the browns of some of the branches or whatever, that would distract and add some more chaos and some more, energy to the image that would draw away from that simplicity. Whereas letting all of that fall essentially to shadow and to black entirely with the black and white lets us really just see the sunburst and see it in the context without getting too distracted by that. And capturing that sunburst that way is excellently done. You figured out your settings and what Mark was saying, like you said, that you need a small aperture to capture that sunburst effect. The reason that happens, by the way, just to quickly go on a small tangent, and why using smaller apertures can actually degrade the sharpness of your image. It's a thing called diffraction, but you're literally looking at it. Because when you have a very large opening, the light's able to pass through it essentially unmolested. It can just go through, move, without having to move around or anything. It just passes through freely. It's like a hose that you just turn on and the water just comes out, right? But then you put your thumb over the hose, and what happens? The water sprays all over the place. It doesn't come out the way it would naturally, and instead it's being forced to move in all of these weird different directions. And that's the same thing that happens to light when you force it to pass through a small opening. You can almost think of it as like the pressure of the light building up through the smaller aperture, forcing the light on the other end to spray outward in directions and spread apart in ways that it's not really meant to, and that can soften your image. It also makes for a great starburst.
Yeah. Some lenses are better for starbursts than others, but I think some of the newer ones are less susceptible to starburst just because of the extra coatings they put on them and what have you. But if so, it's just something. If you are looking to get a starburst and you're playing around with it and you can't get it to work, it could just be a possibility that the lens is just good at controlling it.
Right, exactly. Hello, Jason. How's it going, bud? Was using the 51.8 prime. Frank says with that photo. That's a really nice lens.
Right.
All right, this is a pretty cool shot. I like this. Let's see what we got going on here.
See you later, Dean. Have
All right.
a good night.
Dean, thank you very much for joining. It's 1:30 a.m. Cochise said, sorry to put the info here. It's an ad campaign for a sock company. Cochise Hart shot this with the Canon 6D, the 85mm f1.2. This was shot at f1.2, ISO 100 and 1/50th of a second. All right, what do you think, Mark?
I like it. I like how the greens really pop out. You've got the blues in the background. They're a little bit more muted or faded, or I think you've probably muted them a little bit just to make the greens pop out more. You've done a good job with the blacks because they're not blending into the background or anything like that. That can sometimes be tricky to do. You've got a little bit of a highlight either from natural light or a flash. I'm not sure if you mentioned if there was flash or not. I don't remember if you said that, but it's a good highlights on the shoe and up the pant leg and even on the sock there, but not enough to be blown out. So well done there. I guess my only, I'm not going to say negative, but just some, if it's for an ad company, maybe you've already done this, but I'd be surprised if they didn't ask you to do it, is the bottom right corner. I just noticed some dark blotches there in the blue, and even a little bit to my left of the shoes there. There's another sort of darker splotch there. I'd probably clean those up a little bit if it was just to kind of just to clean it up a little bit, because I do find, especially the one in the bottom right corner, I do find that a little bit distracting because I keep looking down there. It's like, oh, what is that down there?
Yeah, I know. I noticed that spot too. Coach Cheesehart says I still need to send it to them, so they'll send back whatever notes and feedback they have on it. But I do notice that as well, and there is another spot a little bit to the left. I really like this shot. I love that warmth. This is one where the warmth is totally working for me. And Coach Cheesehart said that I shot it right before sunset. Captured that beautifully. And I'm not sure if you did this on purpose or not, Coach Cheesehart, but it looks like the blacks have been crushed, and I think that works for this shot as well. It gives it, again, that kind of vintage feel. It flattens it out a little bit, but there's enough contrast. Yeah, it helps the greens pop. It helps the socks really stand out, which is the focus as a product shot. That is clearly the thing we're supposed to be looking at, and I think this is executed really well because you have all of the information you need, but our focus is really on what we should be seeing, which is the socks. And I
Hmm.
mean, this is, yeah, I did it on purpose. Coach Easthart said, excellent choice.
Yeah.
I love the thing that I love in this shot is the way the light and shadow is shaping that shoe, that principal shoe. I'm a sucker for that kind of the just light hitting something like that. I'm just a sucker for that. I love that look. It's really cool. It's really well done. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice work.
Yeah.
Very nice work, Coach Easthart.
He made a comment that it was shot right before sunset. So that explains the nice warmth and the nice
Hmm.
long shadows and everything too.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Mhm. Definitely.
Okay, we got Harry's shot here. I think Harry just had to leave, didn't he? But we'll still talk about his photo because it wouldn't be fair not to. Let's see. Here we go. Harry. Here we go. I was looking for an image with just two elements, no distractions. Nicely done. Greater yellow legs. This was shot at 1/800th f9 and ISO 400. Um, so this is the shot. Also sneaking in one that wasn't shot within the last 2 weeks. Shame, guys. I'm just giving you a hard time though. I mean, genuinely though, we do want you guys to shoot the stuff because the whole idea, of course, is to challenge you to create and to push your creative boundaries. But anyway, go ahead, Mark.
And to get out there and take some damn photos,
Exactly.
which
Yeah.
I didn't do, so I can't talk.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a beautiful bird. The details look nice and crisp. The depth of field is beautiful for this. The, the Spiros is probably going to say, "Oh, it's too warm." Blah blah. No, just
No.
kidding. But I think the white balance is perfect on this one. Nice, beautiful use of the rule of thirds. Again, same as with that other bird shot we looked at. The line of focus in the water is in the bottom third, and then the bird is also in the third. Um, it's it's perfect. Only the one thing I do notice is again, it's really minor. I even hesitate even mentioning anything. Is sort of on the left hand side. I just see one little dark spot there, but I think it's just a reflection in the water. So I probably wouldn't even worry about it. But that's just being like really super duper nitpicky. But other than that, so it's a beautiful capture of this bird for sure.
Yeah, I like the warmth. I do. I genuinely do like the warmth in this one. I think it works really well. And you nailed it here with what you said, Harry. Just two elements, no distractions, and this has that right. The water gives us context, puts the bird into place. The bird is there. It's beautifully lit. The composition is nice. It's not centered. And in a case like this, because it's just essentially a blank background. Yes, it's got the
Mhm.
water and the texture, but it's essentially a blank plain background. Having the bird in the center would detract because it would kind of break the composition. So I think he did a really excellent job here and captured that simplicity in a nice and elegant way. Even though
Yep.
this was before the theme, which is fine. Scolding over.
Yeah. Bash,
Yeah.
bash, bash,
Yeah,
bash.
right. All right. Edith says she loves the shot. Yeah, I think it's really nicely done. It really is. All right. I'm not sure whose shot this is, but we do have the details for it. And what we have here is we don't have any settings details, but simplicity in the person and in the lighting. And the photo was taken at a protest. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, it's another nice shot. It's I like the processing. I like the black and white and the deep grungy black and white look that you've got on this one. Uh, to me, I think it's a little underexposed for my taste. I think he could probably bring the exposure up maybe half a stop and still keep that grungy feel to it. Like the it just feels too dark for me. And again, like I said earlier about somebody else's photo, I do like a dark photo, but to me, I think it's just a little bit too dark in my opinion, anyways. Um, I do. I normally would sometimes complain about the hat being chopped off, but in this case here, is enough of it chopped off that it's intentional, so I don't mind it so much. If you just chopped off just a hair of it, I'd probably say you should have backed up a little bit or got in a little bit tighter. But I think this works like that. Other than that, it's great. I love the mood. I love the texture. Love the editing. Love the feel of it. It's just for me, it's just that I think the exposure is a little bit dark.
Yeah, again, like the earlier shot, I think it was or not Brenda's. It was the Rose Marks. But at any rate, I'm at
Right,
full
right.
brightness, so it looks okay, which means I agree. It should probably come up about a stop to give it a good overall exposure. I agree with everything else you said. I like the sort of grunginess of it. Um, there's a lot of darkness in the background, and that helps really focus our attention just on the subject. There are some lighter tones back there, but they're not too distracting. And what's nice
Mhm.
is you can see that that's a lot of people around. So we need to be told that it's a protest, because unless we're wherever that happened, we probably wouldn't know it's a protest. But it is clear that this person is in a crowd of people, so
Yeah, it
that
could just
puts
be
us
a
in
regular street
place.
shot, or whatever the case is. But yeah, knowing it's a protest definitely adds something to it.
Yeah. Sandy says something that I also noticed, and obviously you can't really do anything about this, but she said the thing coming out of his beard is distracting me, and it does distract me as well. And clearly you're not going to walk up to this person and be like, hey, dude, I want to take a picture of you at this protest. Can you take that thing out of your beard? I mean, maybe you would, and maybe they'd be okay with it, but if you're just, like, if you're approaching this photojournalistically, then obviously that's going to sort of break the code of ethics there. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, I find it a little distracting. It doesn't break the photo, but I agree. I find it a little distracting as well. And I don't
Yeah,
know what it is either.
I did think that too, but then I was like, well, it was a protest. It was nothing that was posed. It was just something that was just shot spur of the moment. And like
Yep.
you said, you might have been able to ask them to move it, but then it's no longer, you're not capturing the mood anymore. Now you're capturing a posed photo. So to me, it didn't bother me being there, just because I know what the intent of the capture was. So
Right, exactly. Hansel Mills says, I like the dark mood of the rose, but this is a different mood, and I agree that it should be a tad brighter. Yeah. It's still a really nice shot, though. It's still really well done.
yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to our next photo. We've got this one here. Um, I'm not seeing any information shared on this photo. So if this photo of the boy is yours, please share your information and claim it. And if you do, we'll come back to it. If nobody claims it, then we're just going to skip it. We're going to move to this next shot and see if there's any information for this one. Oh, okay. We got it. This is Hansel
For which
Mills.
one?
What's that?
For which shot do we have it for?
I just started taking. I have no idea what my settings are and what they mean yet. I think this. Okay, so, this is Hansel Mills' shot right here. Excellent. The boy, and Hansel Mills says, I just started taking pics a week ago. Nikon D3600 it must be. Because he typed D6300, but I don't think that's a model number. Either way, it's a Nikon camera. I have no idea what my settings are, or even what they mean yet. That's okay. Like that's what my video's for.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no need to apologize, Hansel Mills. Don't worry about typos or any of that kind of stuff. We're pretty low key here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's an adorable shot. So he says, I think ISO was 1600. I used aperture priority mode. I used the gold side of my reflector and told jokes. Good technique.
Well, I have to say, for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, the fact that they actually weren't in full auto mode and shooting aperture priority, that's a step in the right direction right there.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Because
it's
aperture priority is what I shoot in 90% of the time.
it's nicely done. Your technique of telling the jokes, super smart. You obviously captured what you were looking for, and I think it's a really great shot because it captures the life in the child. The laughter is certainly there. The use of the gold reflector is nicely done. You've added some light in there and added some brightness to the left side and given it a really nice lighting in general. The ISO being at 1600. not knowing what your other settings are and not knowing exactly what the conditions are, that may or may not have been something you could have avoided. I'm not saying that's bad. Just saying, like, generally speaking, if you're shooting outside during the day, and this looks like an outside-ish situation, you probably didn't need to be there. But again, like, we get it. You're learning. This isn't a criticism of that. Just saying, like, that's something that when you learn, you'll probably be able to avoid using a higher ISO like that in a
Yeah.
better lit situation like this.
Hmm.
But I love the laughter. I love what you captured here, and I love your approach and technique. I love that you use the reflector. I love that you didn't center him, and I love that you got him laughing with your jokes. Like, really well done, Hansel Mills. Really nicely done shot, especially for somebody who just started taking photos. And on that note, I actually wanted to share a playlist with you that you should watch on my channel, because it's got a mess of videos that will help you understand what the heck is going on with all of those settings. So let me just grab that up and I'll drop that into the chat for you, Hansel Mills. And while we are waiting for that, I don't know if we have any settings on this one either. So if this is your photo, please claim this one as well while I'm looking for this playlist that I want to grab. Here it is. All right. So, incoming link for you, Hansel Mills.
Hansel said it was down in the bedroom, and so light was from the window left, so the reflector was probably filling in on the right-hand side then.
Okay. Okay, this is Fernando's photo, Fernando Arias' photo. So Fernando says, as a portrait photographer, my contribution to simplicity is in her expression and the fact that it was lit with one light backstage. She is a soprano opera singer, taken a few minutes before performing. This is beautiful. Mark, I'll let you go ahead, but I just want to say that right away. This is a beautiful shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. For like you said, a single light, it's definitely nicely done, well lit. The beautiful pose. She's definitely, and I like the pose. I actually like the fact that she's not looking at you in this case. It sort of leaves a little bit of mystery. I don't mind shots where the model is looking over your shoulder, slightly off. If they're looking too far, then I find it a little bit odd and distracting. But in this case, I think it works quite well. One thing I'm curious about is whether her makeup was that good, or did you do a lot of skin smoothing on her face, because it looks a little bit out of place compared to like her neck and her upper torso. So I'm kind of curious about that. That would be about my only. I'm not going to say negative comment, but to me, I'm not a fan of the skin being that touched up unless it is natural makeup, because it just looks a little bit awkward that compared to the rest of the upper torso. But again, that's more a matter of style preference with something like that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's also retouched. That was the first thing I noticed, and generally speaking, I don't have a problem with retouching. I do retouching myself. I don't know if this is the compression or if it's a little overdone. Skin retouching is a fine and finicky line that each artist has to find a place for. So, like you were saying, Mark, I think for me, I think the skin's just a hair too smooth on her face, especially with, like you say, Mark, the sort of contrast of that to the rest of the skin.
And he's saying that there was a makeup artist, but it was also retouched.
Okay, so it's a little bit of both. That's a minor thing, and outside of that, I think it's a really beautiful photo. Like, this is a gorgeous portrait. I love your lighting on it. Yeah, she looks very statuesque, which makes sense. Being that she's an opera singer, she's obviously going to have really fantastic pose, because I know that the pose helps with how people sing. I love the hair coming over the shoulder. That's a small detail that I'm really enjoying. It breaks her shoulder line, and it adds some interest and energy to the shot. This is beautiful done, Fernando. Very beautifully done. I think it's okay. He says it's the compression. It doesn't look as smooth here, which I totally understand. Yeah, compression will do that. So I get that. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Coach E says, nice shot. She's beautiful. She's single. uh, yeah, MJ said the same thing. You notice the skin retouching, so the compression is doing that.
Hmm.
Everybody really likes this shot. MJ says, "I love the spotlighting effect." That's one of the things I wanted to mention. Thank you. That real focus on her face is very nicely done. And Sandy
Hmm.
says it's a stunning shot. It's really beautifully done, Fernando. Thank you very much. Ooh, interesting. This is a pretty cool shot. Okay, so this is the Canon EOS 7D shot with the 60 millimeter f2.8 Canon macro lens. And this is Leo's shot, Leo Manchetti's shot. Awesome. This was shot at 60 millimeters, since that's the focal length of that lens. F2.8, 1/200th of a second, and ISO 3200. This is pretty cool. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, no, it's definitely pretty cool. This is, I think with some of those other shots, I commented about shallow depth of field and how you maybe opening up the aperture, or sorry, closing down the aperture to add a bit of depth of field might be better. But I think in this case, I actually like it the way it is shot wide open, and this the egg just fading out. It almost looks like an eye like this. So I definitely like it. It's definitely fits the theme, but it's for something so simple, it's actually quite interesting. Like obviously it's an egg, but the fact that
Mm-hmm.
it's cracked, you're kind of looking around to see where all these cracks go and see how many there are, and you kind of look again. Oh, did I miss something somewhere? And I was kind of thinking at first too that maybe this would work as a square crop, but then looking at it again, it's like no, I think it works just fine the way it is as with the crop that it is, and I don't even mind that it's a little bit tight on the egg so that you're not even seeing the full egg because it's just the depth of field is so shallow, and that part of the egg is so out of focus anyways that I think it's fine like that. It's for something so simple, it's brilliantly done.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The cracking makes this, just absolutely
Hmm.
makes this, and Leo, that's like so good. It's so good because all of your attention is focused in there, and I like how there's like two layers to it. You have that first set of shell, and then the sort of flatter at the bottom of the indentation, and then you have these other cracks that are radiating out. That shallow depth of field, you sort of wander out there, but because it's so shallow and everything's falling off, it brings you right back into the crack, and there's so much texture on that egg. Like this is awesome. This is really really
Yeah,
good.
if the egg hadn't been cracked, I think it would have just been. It still would have been a good photo, but just having it cracked like this just uh, just brings it a world above what it could have been.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. Edith says she loves this shot. I agree. Like this is awesome. This is a really cool shot. I love the ingenuity behind this. Such a simple thing, crack it, but it adds so much to this photo.
Hope
Yeah,
he ate it afterwards.
right, right. Coach Easthart said this is a very cool, very unique shot, very creative. I absolutely
Mhm.
agree. Nicely done. Hansel Mill says, "What a cool idea! Never would have thought to take a photo like this."
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Isn't it awesome, like being able to see everybody else's ideas and to riff off of them, and to adapt and build on them, like earlier with Christian's photo as well. Nicely done, Leo Manchetti. Very nicely done.
Yeah,
Moschetti.
stuff like when you see stuff like this, it helps get your creative juices flowing.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, this is Three Beans. So this here is Brian Leonard's, and this is three coffee beans taken with a 40 millimeter macro lens, 1/200th of a second, f11, ISO 400, with a flash at camera left and camera right.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
have to admit that I'm confused with this one.
Confused. Interesting.
Yeah, the reason I'm confused is because the bean at the front is in focus, but then it starts to fall out of focus. But then the bean in the middle, where the first bean is out of focus, it's in focus. But then the middle bean, it starts to get out of focus. But then the third bean is in focus again.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't looked at it closely enough to see that. So yeah, and now that I'm looking at it, this isn't a criticism because compositing is fine. But
Yeah.
I can see like right here along the edge of this bean and how it blends in with the back bean, I can see that it's composited. And if you look at the edge of the bean here, and these are things to look for. These are 3 photos focus stacked, Brian says. So that's what we're
Mm,
seeing is some of the artifacts of the stacking. Though you
right,
got to
right.
watch out for those. If with what's happening here is you have the inconsistency in the focus, as Mark was mentioning, which is breaking, which breaks us out of it because our brains intuitively understand that there's something not right there.
Yeah, because I want to like it because the concept is cool. It's definitely it definitely fits the theme being simplistic, and it's for something so simple. It's an interesting subject, similar to the egg. It's just that with the way, I guess, like you said, the focus stacking, the way it's been thrown together, is just throws me off.
Right, right. Um, we
When it comes to doing something like this, like macro work like this, you're usually I have never done it, so I can't really speak from experience. So I'm just kind of going by what I know in theory. Is that with something like this, you'd probably need to do. You might for something like this, if you're using a macro lens, you almost might have to do like 20 or 30 photos to really stack this so it's in focus from front to back with because with macros the depth of field is so shallow that just doing 3 of them basically you end up with weird artifacts like this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The needing more. I'm looking for. Okay, I do have it. I'm gonna throw an image up here so I can show you guys one that I focus stacked a long time ago and how many photos I took to do it. Let me just find the finished shot. Here it is, right here. Okay. Just gotta export this out. That'll work. And let me count up the photos here that I took. Okay, it's funny. I took 30 photos for this
Oh,
stack
there you
that
go.
I'm about to upload and show you guys. Um, okay, so Brian says I agonize between this one and another. It's hard sometimes. It's really hard.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. And the fact that you're trying to focus stack, it's good because it's how you learn.
yeah.
It's not meant to be criticism at all because the concept behind the photo is excellent. I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're learning new techniques or trying to fine tune techniques that maybe you already know, this is a good way to learn is by getting the feedback like this.
Yep, absolutely. The concept is brilliant. The lighting is brilliant. It's just the focus stack that doesn't quite work. So let me show
Hmm.
you the focus stack that I did, just to give you just so you can see the difference. And this is the one and only focus stack that I've ever done. I was trialing
Hey, you got one
software.
up
What's
on
that?
me. You got one up on me then.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I took 30 photos and then used Helicon Focus, which is a fairly expensive piece of software, but it's really good at what it does, which is focus stacking, like really good. Which is why this one turned out as well as it did because focus stacking in like Photoshop it works, but it's also like a little bit of a mess. Uh, what's that?
So I was going to say a little bit finicky.
Yeah, it doesn't make it easy for you to go in and refine it is really what it
Mm,
boils down to. So at any rate, like
right,
I don't want to spend too much time on mine because outside of the focus stack, I just wanted to say like, your idea here, Brian, everything about it is great. The idea is really fantastic. I'd love to see
absolutely.
you. I'd love to see you reshoot this and just take more photos and restack it so that we could see it. In fact, if you wanted to do that for next Monday for the open theme, I'd love to see that pop up in there because I think once you nail that focus stacking, this is going to be an absolutely fantastic photo.
100% agree.
Yeah, Edith says I have no idea how to focus stack, but the shot looks good to me. Great start on the photo. Yeah, it's really good, and getting that focus stack is just going to make it that much better. All right,
Yeah, it's much. I think it's kind of much like was it Brenda who did the flag shot? It's like you
yes,
said, it's the first time try. Like I don't know if this is Brian's first time trying something like this, but with that flag shot, it was her first time trying it, and that's how you learn is just by trying new stuff and learning as you go and see what works and what doesn't work.
absolutely, absolutely. We don't have any information on this photo, so if this is oh perfect, this is MJ's shot. Thank you, MJ. Right on cue. MJ says, I took that shot with my D610 paired with my 50 millimeter f1.8 lens. It was an outdoor environment, no flash, just the ambient light, and then the photo was cropped to just isolate the subject and the background. It was really beautiful. Go ahead, Mark. I'll let you start. Oh,
Yeah,
before
I
you
agree.
start, sorry, real quick, I just want to add. Brian said he'd only tried focus stacking once before, so you're on the right path, Brian. Just keep working at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, so anyways, this is nice. This actually kind of reminds me of your photo because it's got the muted colors in it, and I think it works well in this case. She's got like light pinks in her dress, and they're kind of muted, and her skin's a little bit muted, and it just has a soft, kind of ethereal look to it. I like the way this has been edited. The only thing I would like to see is if this is one of those cases where I think she would be better if she was in one of the thirds instead of straight in the middle. But apart from that, like I said, I like the shot, love the editing. I think your choice of cropping a little bit from the bottom to remove some distractions is a good choice. You cropped in a good area. You're not at her knee or below her knee, and that's sort of a typical rule. Is you try not to crop at joints. It's a beautiful young lady. It's other than my note about her being in the third. I love the shot.
I think it's really wonderful. I'm okay with her in the center on this, and like we said before, everybody's going to see it a little bit different.
Yep.
I'm fine with it because there's enough variation in the background, and there's enough variation in her pose that it doesn't make it feel like a static composition with her right in the middle of the frame there. And so I'm fine with that myself personally. I love the overall color toning and grading of this image. The muted colors are really beautiful, and that overall kind of bluish tone, the cool feel of it, I think works really, really nice. It gives it an ethereal feel. We've got some beautiful comments on it. Like Brenda says, this could be an ad. Edith says it's lovely. Sandy says pretty. Rick Bentor says My Fair Lady, right? Exactly. So I like all of that. A couple of
I love
small.
her pose. It's a beautiful pose too. It
Yep.
really works well.
Yeah, this is like super tiny, super nitpicky. This bit of hair or whatever it is on the hat, I'd take 2 minutes and get rid of that. But again, like that's super nitpicky. Everything else about this is really beautiful, and I love the shot. I love that skyline. I love the crop on it. Um, I love how she stands out against this, and I love that color grading. It's really very nicely well done.
I'm glad you left the skyline there too because I think it helps. Like if you're from the area, you might recognize the buildings, and even if you don't know the area, I still think it adds to it. It just adds some depth. I think if it was just her against the sky, it just wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, it's very very nice. Coach Easthart said the city background is great. Hansel Mills said I thought the city was a printed background. It's interesting how it appears that way because of the depth of field and because it's all out of focus. It almost looks fake or like a backdrop that you're shooting against, and that's an interesting thing about like optics and depth of field and how we perceive images. I always find that interesting.
Yeah, I think the muted colors also kind of make it look so it looks like it's a print as well too.
Yeah, yeah, it does. This is beautiful. Um,
Hmm.
MJ says, "Thanks, guys. It's good to hear your opinions. Happy to share them. Happy to share them." Okay, this is our
Definitely.
last photo of the night. This photo comes from Brian Kelly. Brian, if you could share your settings or some information on this photo, that would be fantastic. And while we're waiting, if Brian's still here, Mark, I'll let you go ahead with this one.
No, this is super cute. I'm assuming this is actual two cats, and based off the look of the photo, I'd say it actually is. It's not something that was edited. There's two cats that are crossing their paws. It's just so cute and cuddly looking. You just kind of want to go over there and just give them a big hug. It does look like it was shot at a higher ISO, so you can see fair bit of grain in the wall there. But if this was shot indoors, you probably didn't have any choice. But that's definitely simplistic. I like how even where their paws are crossed, sort of in the center there, it almost kind of looks like a heart as well too. Like you kind of see it if you're looking, and it's just overall it's just such a cute, simplistic shot that works really well.
Yeah, this is super adorbs. I mean, it's kitties, so like you almost can't go wrong here.
Can't go wrong, right?
Yeah,
Unless you're
yeah, right. Brian said two types of composition. One is set up with days of thinking and trial. The other is capture the moment. This was a moment. I was lucky with the camera ready. And yeah, exactly. You know, there are moments you capture when you're ready and you see a thing and you're able to act and get it. And then there are times when you plan, you prep, and you execute. And both are obviously more than valid ways to shoot and to create and to capture. And this is
absolutely.
yeah.
They each serve their own purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brenda says this is meme ready. Yeah, really, it really is. This is a very memeable photo, Brian, and I could see this taking off on Reddit or something once the meme people got a hold of it, so to speak. I love the kitties, touching paws and nuzzling together. The simplicity in this is really gorgeous. It's a perfect capture, Brian, for this theme and showing off that being ready and taking that shot that you see and acting in that moment to capture something that you see that's beautiful. All right, that was our last photo. Holy smokes, what a marathon of photos tonight. We've had such really, really great stuff. This was a really awesome show. Thank you guys all for sharing your photos with us. We always appreciate it.
You know what we forgot to do?
What?
Ask people what they want for the next theme.
Oh, I had that all set up already. It was all happening in the chat.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Do you want to vote real quick?
Sure.
I don't think your vote. I don't think your vote is going to make any difference, but
No, probably not. Well,
yeah.
If it's that synonymous for one thing, then don't worry about it.
Yeah. So here's what we had an option on. We had vertical, waves, bokeh, and fractured. One of them has 64%, and that's bokeh by a landslide. By a landslide. So your next challenge.
Then I'll vote for that one too. Then.
Your next challenge when is it due? Due June 3rd, 2019 is bokeh. Bokeh. If you don't know what bokeh is, that is shallow depth of field, where your subject is in focus and your background is all blurred and out of focus.
like the cracked egg.
Yeah, like the cracked egg. Steve says time for some 200 millimeter f2 action. Absolutely. And Sandy says, I guess I'll be getting out the serious gear for the bokeh theme. All right. So bokeh is the challenge. That's for 2 weeks. Next week, of course, will be an open theme. So Mark and I will be back to see what photos you have for us there, and we'll chat about them. I, of course, have new videos coming out this week, so stay tuned for those on Tuesday and Thursday. And I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add, Mark? Any last words?
Are you doing your Wednesday show this week?
Yes, I am. Thank you for reminding me. I know it went into the chat a couple of times, but I am doing the business wind-up with Zara on Wednesday. So that is Friday. That's Wednesday. Friday, I was going to say. That's Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. Convert that to your local time zone. That will be on Facebook, and that one is our business-focused show.
Have it on Facebook.
Yep. So hope to see some of you guys there on Wednesday as well. Otherwise, get your lenses out, open up those apertures, and shoot some damn bokeh, people. Oh,
yep, there you go.
Yeah, I'll answer that question. Steve said, anything further on website critiques? Yes and no. Yes, in that absolutely on the business windup, we will do some website critiques. No, as in we don't have a time or a show yet when we're going to do them. So Zara and I will be doing a little bit of planning. She's out on a trip right now in Canada shooting a wedding. Fingers crossed.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's up in your neighborhood. Well, sort of your neighborhood. I think she's in a totally different province. I think she's in a western province, but she's in your country. So that is something.
Like 5 years away.
Right, exactly. All right. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Get out there, take some damn photos. See you on the flip. Bye.
Night, everybody.
Ooh, where's my button? There it is. Good night.